just going to go to your page, and when I see it come
You
up,
can see it. We're live now, so you know.
I'm gonna,
But anyway, welcome to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect, everyone. Today, I clearly have a guest, Jason Tapp, who is the owner of Promethean Wellness. He has a supplement company, which I think is pretty cool. And if you've been watching this channel, you know I've been looking for an excuse to talk about supplements again. And lo and behold, I have found one here. He's helped and he's used supplements in his own life to help heal trauma, which I'm very excited to get into. But before I get into all of that, how are you today, Jason?
I'm doing great, man.
Glad
Thanks
to
for
have you
having
on
me.
here.
Yeah, this is actually really kind of the first one of these I've done with someone else leading it, so kind of cool.
We're breaking your virginity here with this. This is good.
Right.
But anyway, it was by coincidence that I discovered you again yesterday and I invited you on the show. So very happy to have you here. But
Yeah.
let's get into the beginning here, where you said you had a relationship with a narcissistic person. How did that begin? And I think that's a good place to start.
Oh, so this is interesting for me because I've been educating on narcissism on social media for the past year or so, but this is a story I've never actually shared, kind of front to back. But essentially, I was in a 13-year marriage with a wonderful person. My ex-wife's a wonderful person. We just weren't a good match. It was kind of like opposites attract, and which can work great for a while, but ultimately it ended. We separated mid 2019, and in on the day that COVID started, I had a girlfriend die in a tragic accident. She got hit by a school bus and just a weird accident. And that, I mean, she was also wonderful. And then a few weeks later, and to an acquaintance of mine, who, she later kind of told me, she had had her eye on me, and I met her and her boyfriend at a concert the year before. She came over, for dinner one night, just to kind of check on me or whatever. I was grieving. And it was kind of like in retrospect, it was kind of like a predatory thing. So, she came over. We had dinner, things were great. Things were nice. She started telling me about her narcissist boyfriend, who was cheating on her, and how she, had to figure out how to get out and get away. And so it's also a little bit embarrassing to share this because I didn't know the whole narcissism checklist
Right.
back then. I had heard I had I had heard about it, with some family stuff earlier in my life, and but yeah, so a week later she was moving in, and leaving her narcissist boyfriend that was cheating on her, and I knew very few people where I live. She knew very few people where I lived, and so it was like jumping from him to me. And of course I was grieving and lonely, and it seemed perfect.
Sure.
Like we liked all the same things, and we loved the same music, and it was the very beginning. COVID was in full swing, and so all we could do was like sit around and stream shows and stream concerts and drink, and
Right.
so it didn't take me very long to figure out that she was pretty much a full-blown alcoholic. But we were crazy about each other. It seemed, and I was not in my right mind. And so 3 months later, we were engaged. And so, I made some mistakes, but
Right.
it was it seems like literally once we became engaged, it was like a light switch went off. And then, I can't remember exactly the very first situation, but it was probably something about the most common situation was being, stumbling drunk around my daughters. And so, I tried to very gently approach the person that I loved about this problem, and she would just absolutely fly off the handle and just go into a rage, screaming, yelling, stomping. That was in the beginning. It got much worse later in the relationship, but
Sure.
and it was kind of a shock. I'd never really seen anything like that before. It was a shock, especially with like the word salad screaming. And it's like, I can't even make sense of this. I
Right.
can't even make sense of what's coming. Like these words don't even really
Sure.
fit together in normal sentence.
The
So,
speed is one of the common denominators, and almost everyone I've spoken to about this, speed, where it happens really
oh,
quickly,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
within a year, moving in,
Oh, yeah.
oftentimes engaged. So that's a big thing right there, where
Yeah.
it kind of goes against the romantic narrative of, oh, just swept off of your feet. But usually when it's that quick, not
Oh,
a
yeah.
good thing, usually.
Yeah. So, the research that I have seen is that but you also kind of have to know what to look for. So we
Sure.
often see this in retrospect, looking backwards. But usually it's about 3 to 6 months whenever the mask starts to fall off. And coincidentally, I would say in most relationships, when you're trying to put your best foot forward, after about 3 to 6 months, somebody's probably going to do something to irritate you a little bit that you're going to say, hey, this, I'm not really crazy about this. And kind of like, kind of like I've heard you say in one of your videos is like, a good test. This, I'm probably stealing your thunder here, but a good test for a narcissist is like saying, no, say no to something that they want, or set a boundary. Sorry if I took your your thing
No,
there,
no, it's
but I
free
learned
for
that.
everyone to share.
Yeah, I learned that from you. So, yeah, and so then, the first time that I tried to hold her accountable for unacceptable behavior and set a boundary, flew off the handle. And so this just became a theme of this two-year long relationship where I could not communicate a boundary, or I could not hold her accountable to any unacceptable behavior. Um, Granted, a lot of it was centered around her alcoholism, and then the person that she became as she began. And often the next day it was like, don't remember any of it. So like it doesn't count, because
Ah,
if I don't remember it, then did it really happen? Like
right.
if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, did it really make a sound? Well, yeah, I was there and I experienced it,
Right.
and it happened to me. The devaluation and the disrespect. And so over 2 years, I was assaulted 3 times. She went to jail once, because the neighbors called the cops. It was such a commotion. And just me kind of like
Right.
hands up, don't shoot, or whatever.
And she was mostly drunk for most of those?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there were no physical assaults, or even there wasn't that much screaming, like raging
Right.
during the sober times, but there was a lot of, then it was more like covert narcissism, like just invalidating my reality and telling me that, no, I didn't say that. Well, here's the text where you said, like, keep the receipts, folks,
Yeah.
and because, yeah. And I mean, I've still got, my girlfriend's in here and she probably doesn't like this, but I still have the evidence on my phone, because, it's like you still kind of in the back of your mind.
Sure.
It's
Well,
like
one month.
someday I might need this evidence. So I
Right.
still keep it.
One thing I do want to ask you about the backtrack. I didn't realize this part of the story, but you had a girlfriend that passed away. How long were you going out with her before that happened?
That was about a 5-month relationship. And
Okay.
so it was just, it was like a little fairy tale. And, um, because it was cut short. And
Right.
so, it was, it was a terrible thing. She was loved by many, many people. So, it's just, it's a sad situation. And, and so, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. You know, it all, in retrospect, it all seems like a setup. Like I was targeted. Like
Right.
I had the supply that she wanted and needed. And, and I'm talking about the narcissist,
Right.
right? So I felt like I was targeted, after 2 years, you know, she probably left me 7 times for like 2 days at a time. It starts out as kind of like stonewalling and silent treatment, but then it's like love bombing.
Right.
Just come back home, And like it was
The invalidating is key to me, right? If someone's not going to try to understand your side of something
oh, yeah,
and continually to tell you, no, you're wrong. No, that's not
yeah.
how it happened, or you're crazy, major problem, regardless of what you call it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is, that's like the core of gaslighting, right?
Right.
So, I mean, gaslighting is somebody, questioning your reality or making you question your own reality, making you feel crazy. And so,
Like just
I
the
mean,
fact you're even fighting on it, right? Where she's not even trying to understand your side, it's turning into a
yeah,
fight. Like that's
yeah.
when
And
you
somebody,
break it down like that, becomes easier to see, yeah, this is a problem. I shouldn't be having to fight for my reality or my thoughts and feelings to be heard and understood.
yeah, for sure. And if somebody loves you, it hurts them to hurt you,
Yes.
and so I mean, yeah, and so gosh, I mean, sometimes me and Carla cry together because I've, inadvertently done something that has upset her, and I'm like, damn, I hate that. I hate that
Right.
I did that because I had no idea I was actually doing something to hurt you, and it's and then we get through it, and then I learn and I slowly become a better partner, and that's what it's all about, but like when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, they're not they are not interested in becoming a better partner for you. They are offended that you would ask them to change and
Right.
be different than the inappropriate person that they are, especially under the influence of alcohol or drugs. I mean, I remember one time so in the midst of all of this, I don't really know what's going on in my mind and my emotions. I went and I was waking up in the middle of the night with panic attacks. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I couldn't breathe. And so I thought, and I was sleeping next to this person. And and so that's like how toxic it was. And my doctor, I thought I was having asthma attacks or something, and I kind of was telling him a little bit about what was going on at home, and so he gave me like an anti-anxiety medication or whatever. And I hate the way those things make me feel. And so I would only take one like if I needed to start breathing again, basically, in the middle of the night. And so, I mean, my ex just took all those pills with her alcohol. So that was just, and like she would ask other people for theirs too. It was just it was a constant situation like that. And just the devaluing. I was never good enough. So she asked me if I was gay one time. She called me a fat boy in front of my 10-year-old daughter. I mean, it's that betrayal list goes on forever. And and that's only in 2 years. So we tried to quit drinking one time, and and I caught her drinking. It was like, lemon vodka was on her breath, and she lied about it. She denied it, and then I found lemon vodka airplane bottles in her bedside drawer, and she's like, "Oh no, those are from before we quit." And I'm like, "Well, that's weird because it's on your breath now." And so I don't even know if she ever really tried to quit, but the last time that something kind of blew up, I said, "Look, I still, I mean, even after 2 years, I wanted to make it work." And I was like, I will quit drinking with you. I'm happy to quit drinking with you, because I mean, I drink, but I don't black out. I remember, I remember what happens. And I don't fall down and hit my head and fall down the steps and things like that,
Yeah, I mean,
so
if she's drinking with benzo type medication or whatever it was,
oh, yeah,
that's how people really black out and time travel, and
yeah,
all sorts of wild stuff happens
yeah.
then.
I mean, one time she missed the bed, and when she literally passed out and missed the bed and busted her nose open on the corner of the bedside table, and it was and I think I actually had PTSD from that happening,
Sure.
because I was asleep and I heard that, and then I saw the aftermath of it, and oh man, that
I
that
mean,
was that was crazy.
a lot of this is a frog in a boiling pot analogy here too, because it
Oh
didn't
yeah,
start that way, right? In the
right.
beginning, she came as the savior. The only red flag besides the speed of the whole thing was how she was talking so much trash about her previous boyfriend or her current boyfriend, maybe it
Yeah.
was, right?
Oh, and yeah, and then over time, they all of her ex-boyfriends were narcissists.
Projection and her
Yeah,
accusations were confessions.
all of them were narcissists. So like, and then so at the end of it, um, somebody gave me a podcast to listen to, and I was, we were separated at this point. I don't know, we weren't actually no contact yet, but we were separated, and um, but I knew that, this is not what I wanted for my daughters. This was not a role model for my daughters, who were soon to be teenagers, and not the type of relationship, that I want my daughters to see. Um, because actually with their mother, we had a pretty good relationship. It just wasn't a great fit. Um, and we had a very amicable divorce. Things are good there, but I trying to remember where I was in this story. I did try to get us to quit drinking and
Right.
go
That's
to
where you were, yeah.
counseling one more time, or she's gonna need to move out. And I don't know if she thought she was calling my bluff or something, but she did move out. And then once I started getting a little bit of separation, I started finding my anger.
Mm,
And a friend of mine said, "You need to listen to this podcast." Now there may be a little bit of irony here, because I think that my ex may have convinced this person that I was a narcissist and told me I need to listen to this podcast on narcissism. But the first episode was all about Darvo and gaslighting, and I was literally in shock, because I was like, this is like a checklist of everything that I've ever heard come out of my ex's mouth. Like, and I've done videos on this where I've said like 30 gaslighting phrases. I heard every single one of them
mm.
in that 2 year relationship, and that's what makes it a valid video. But yeah, and so then I have a master's degree in psychology, so I started obsessively studying narcissistic personality disorder. So and then I started educating people on it on social media, and that's kind of how I built my social media following, because I went through a narcissistic relationship. Um, I also went through EMDR therapy, which I do highly recommend for someone who is going through, trying to break that trauma bond is, and the rumination in your mind of constantly going over things. Some
That's a big one.
EMDR, yeah, EMDR, like it's almost like it puts the memory in a box and it tucks it away in a closet in your brain and kind of disconnects the neurons or synapses or whatever that keep bringing that back up in your memory, so it can just kind of tuck it away. See, it's almost like, deleting all your pictures on your phone, so you don't have to go back and look at them anymore. Yeah, and so I started educating people on narcissistic personality disorder. Now, if every once in a while people ask me about like other personality disorders and stuff, I'm like, I dove into narcissistic personality disorder and I can educate on that, but I really don't know that much about the other ones. But I do know, cluster B and borderline personality disorder has a lot of overlap with narcissistic personality disorder, but also some differences.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I think, well, I think I'm gonna take a drink of water at this point.
Okay. So
What
basically, there was no big blowout event of when your ex, the narcissist, left. It was really she moved out because you said, let's quit drinking. And she basically said, no, I don't want to quit drinking. So I'm going to move out. And then
yeah. And so the other, but one of the things about narcissists is whenever they can no longer use you, or they don't see you as the supply that they once did, or if you finally figure out their game, that's generally when they will leave you. Now, one event did happen. I lost a job, and then I lost a job, and I've owned this company for about 5 or 6 years. So that kind of, I took a significant pay cut at the time for that, because I essentially I had 2 incomes. I paid every bill. She never paid a bill. I owned 2 cars. She drove one of them. That was that kind of situation. But I lost that job, so things were going to have to get a little bit tighter. And within 2 weeks, she was like and I was actually like happy about it, because it was a stressful situation. I was put in a position that I really didn't belong in. So I was kind of like relieved when I lost this job, and I was like, wow, I'm glad that's over. And she was like, really feigning concern for me or whatever. I think she was just concerned about the money. And it wasn't 2 weeks later that she was actually gone.
It sounds about like that. Concern trolling almost is what they call that, right? Where they're all in concern for you, but in reality, they're really just looking out for themselves.
Yeah. You know what? And there was another situation too. Really, what second to last time that we went no contact when my aunt died, and I reached out to her for support, and she just had no compassion for my situation and just told me that she didn't love me anymore. Like 2 weeks after telling me that she would love me forever. She was just, so like, and that's another one of those things. It's another one of those like memes out there. It's like, what are the situations where a narcissist will discard you? You lose a job, somebody
when you
dies,
need them most,
you get sick, you get cancer, like any of these things, they're out.
Yep. When you need them most, when you need their support the most, that's when they're least likely to give it. And they'll usually make those situations worse too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, your aunt dies, you're looking for emotional support. Surely she will not have any for you. And in fact, she'll make it worse and say, nope, never loved you. See you later. Discard. So like a brutal discard at that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I actually, as a narcissism educator, this is the first time of telling that story it's been about a year and a half, and this is my first time telling the story on social media because I mean, at first I still had some sort of loyalty or protective instinct, because that's who I am. So like I've never once mentioned this person's name on social media or in any of
That's
my.
good though. It's good not to mention that.
I've really never told this story before I'm telling it to you tonight. So, I've got probably 600,000 followers across 3 different platforms, and nobody's ever heard this story before.
We got the exclusive. But it's good. Did she try to hoover you after that final discard at all?
No, so it came to find out she had a secret boyfriend who was married. So that, like as soon as she was out of my picture, she was already in somebody else's picture. So
Sounds about right. And that's how she started yours, right? She was with
yeah,
somebody and then jumped right to you. And that's why I always say, right? If someone leaves who they're with for you or cheats with you on their current partner, you can't be surprised if the same happens to you later.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
in one way, that is a clean break, though, in one way.
yeah. It was, that's one way to put it. I mean, the condition that it left me in
Oh,
was, I mean, I definitely suicidal ideation. The PTSD was excruciating. My skin felt like pins and needles for weeks. I couldn't sleep at all. And I was obsessed about studying narcissism because I finally figured out what happened to me. I was obsessed about studying and learning about narcissism. And, but, one thing that had helped me in the past and helped my health in the past was nutritional supplements. And so that is the other thing that I got obsessed about studying were nutritional supplements that could help people with the symptoms of trauma recovery or of trauma, relational trauma, essentially. So stress, anxiety, depression, gut health issues, immunity, autoimmune issues, brain fog, neuroinflammation, just your brain trying to get your brain firing again, essentially. So yeah, I started researching those things, and I know you were going to ask me about this, but yeah, I started researching those things, and I already had a contract with a high quality manufacturer to sell their products, and I decided to basically build the first ever catalog of supplements that are specifically tailored to people with the symptoms of trauma recovery and people with PTSD and complex PTSD.
and so what does that solution look like for you? And how did you start the process of learning, okay, I should start taking this at this dosage? Or what did that process look like?
So that's a great question because with my background, and I have a master's degree in psychology, like I told you, and so I have the training to actually interpret clinical studies, medical clinical studies, and so I was looking at clinical studies on narcissism, things like that, learning about grandiose narcissism and covert and vulnerable narcissism and all those things. But that same science applies to nutritional science as well, right? So, that's one of the things that I've always prided myself in for the 7 years that I've owned Promethean Wellness, is actually putting the clinical dosage of the ingredients into my products, to make sure that you're, giving people the proven amount that actually makes the impact on the body that you want to make on the body, as opposed to just putting 5 milligrams or 100 micrograms or whatever it is, in there, just so people read it on the label and it's like, oh, this has got this in there. But guess what? You need 500 milligrams of it to actually work, and yours has 50. So that's not really going to do much for you.
Right.
Yeah. So that's, I have a high quality manufacturer that third party tests all of their stuff.
And that is important, because certainly not all supplements are created equally.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, and so they cost a little bit more than what you're going to get on the shelves at the drugstore. But those companies have been sued, by New York State and by the FDA and the USDA for selling bogus stuff, I mean, and so having that third party testing is really important. And we're also NSF certified. So National Sports Federation, less than 1% of the supplements out there are NSF certified and third party tested. So we're pretty proud of it. They're really great products, but they're also just foundational. I mean, this is not like really fancy stuff. It's like, core minerals, like base minerals like magnesium and zinc, products that help you with your stress hormone, like ashwagandha reduces, it's clinically proven, peer-reviewed clinical studies, clinically proven to reduce your stress hormone. Omega-3 fish oil is clinically proven to reduce depression. It's clinically proven to help reduce suicidal ideation in people with PTSD. That's fish oil, guys. And that's just, that is peer-reviewed clinical studies. So it's really fascinating to dive into that stuff. But what I take is a stress and anxiety bundle. And I actually took it before I ever sold it. I took it for about 6 months before I ever offered it to the public. And it really has worked wonders for me. I mean, even if, like, you can see a year ago, if you go back and look at my TikTok videos or my Facebook reels or whatever, you can see how much more wound up I was a year ago than I am now. And a lot of that just has to do with reducing my stress hormone, reducing the cortisol, getting a better sleep. I mean, I couldn't sleep when after the discard happened, after the breakup happened. And it was just, the brain fog in my brain. I almost lost my business too, because I couldn't run my business. I would run out of stock. I wouldn't order stock in time. I wasn't tracking things right. I wasn't answering customer emails. I mean, it was bad. And so, but all better now. And my business is doing better than it ever has. I do answer my customer emails now. So yeah, it's been very rewarding though, Jared, and I love your content. And so, watching you with the pen and stuff, you
it's
got
a trademark, trademark pen.
Yeah, you got a lot of great stuff out there. And so I was really excited, when you invited me to do this. I know you normally ask the questions, but I understand that you take some supplements too. You want to tell the people about the supplements?
Oh, Lordy Lord. Well, we can do this in 2 parts here, because I was going to ask you about, like, when someone starts a supplement routine, what kind of questions would you ask them to find out where they should start? Like, would it be symptoms? Oh, Are you having problems with sleep? Are you having problems with stress? Are you having problems with anxiety? Are you having problems with depression or whatever it may be? Because I think that's what I would ask people, I think. Now, my routine, you have about 5 minutes, and I can tell you, I take 2 different probiotics, folic acid, B12, a 5-hour energy in the morning that has a lot of B12, B6, and I take vitamin D3, and then SAM-E I take, and then niacinamide, taurine, phenylalanine, fish oil, omega-3, glutamine, arginine, choline, ashwagandha, lithium orotate, zinc, what else? Biotin. And that's just off the top of my head. And then that's not even for the sleep stack either. So the sleep stack, GABA, magnesium, 5-HTP. I didn't mention 5-HTP. I take that a couple times a day. And then black seed oil, I'll take with that too. So there's a lot of stuff in this thing. But to me, they make a big difference. Like they help bridge the gaps where I had a coaching client once who was telling me that, like when he started taking SAM-E, for example, like he just wasn't able to be assertive and he was having problems with the trauma bond. He kept on going back, but just this little thing helped him get over the edge. And I think maybe ashwagandha could do that for somebody too. That's part of is that part of your stress and anxiety bundle?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really cool point too, because, and just like I was saying, I was so much more wound up a year ago. And that was even 6 months after the breakup. So the supplements really make a difference because people can suffer from the PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorder. And by the way, it's a stress disorder, right? So if you have this stress disorder, then you have chronically elevated stress and chronically elevated cortisol, which is your stress hormone. And then that causes inflammation in your body. So, and then inflammation causes all the bad stuff that's going on in your body. And it even causes cancer. So, and that's kind of, that's the process. So if you can lower your cortisol, not only can you improve your health, whole body health, and there's a lot of different, symptoms and supplements that can help. But yeah, ashwagandha is great because it helps to reduce cortisol. And then, I also, like I said, the omega-3 fish oil actually is an anti-inflammatory, and it specifically helps with neuroinflammation, with inflammation in the brain. You've probably seen some of the videos where people talk about narcissistic abuse actually causes inflammation in the brain. It causes your amygdala to get inflamed and actually get bigger.
Changes the brain, yeah.
Then your hippocampus shrinks, and your amygdala is like your primal part. Sometimes it's called the lizard brain,
right?
And that's a little weird these days because some people think there's lizard people out there, but that's not what that means.
True. That's
true. Not what that means. But that's because it's the primal. It's because lizards have this amygdala, but they don't have much hippocampus, right? And then humans have a big one, but whenever you go through PTSD and trauma, it actually shrinks the higher level reasoning parts of your brain, and it becomes much harder to just
and that's the scientific component of this, right? That's a scientific thing you can look at and say, see, that's what's going on. So unless someone's going to do something about that, I'm not sure if that effect is permanent or not, but if there can be supplements to improve that situation, why not do it? And I think whether someone has trauma or not, PTSD or not, CPTSD, I think just optimizing our bodies anyway. Why wouldn't we want to do that? Right. And I think for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think people are getting the proper amounts of nutrition from their diet anymore. A lot of people don't get the proper amount of sleep anymore or exercise. So, and that's not even to mention the carcinogens in the air, the plastics, the chemicals we use in soaps. I think all of these things are depleting us in some ways. So we got to do something about it, or we're going to be under par where we should be. And this is especially true for men because a lot of these compounds and chemicals, they're depleting men's testosterone too. So I think those things, we got to counteract this stuff. It's one of the
Yep.
big reasons I'm for the optimization of supplements, that whether you have trauma or not, they're just helping you be the happiest and healthiest version of yourself. So
Yeah.
I'm all for them.
Yeah, you know what? And I was actually so I mean, I'm in my late 40s now, but it was probably 15 years ago when actually I was diagnosed with low testosterone. And I used to give myself deep muscle injections with a needle of liquid testosterone into my bloodstream. That was probably
TRT,
I, yeah, I guess yeah, TRT. What's that stand for?
testosterone replacement therapy.
Replacement therapy. All right. Yeah, that's right. So that's what I did. And that was it's been a decade ago now. And now I just take my Pro T supplement complex, which helps with my testosterone. And of course, balancing the rest of your hormones helps as well. Getting enough sleep helps. Lifting weights, lifting heavy boosts your testosterone. Losing belly fat helps boost your testosterone. Belly fat is a killer. And many of the men out there, not all, but many of the men out there have have a big spare tire around their belly. The men that have low testosterone, that's what I meant to say, have a big spare tire around their belly. And so losing that spare tire actually helps to boost your testosterone as well.
So, of all the places to start, and I guess in particular with the things that you would offer, where would you tell the average person, okay, they're trying to break free from the trauma bond. They maybe have damaged like the parts of their brain from that abuse that they experienced. Where do you start them? Like, is there questions you'll ask them about it, or?
So you asked earlier, and I think considering your symptoms is definitely a great place to start. So if you are having gastrointestinal issues, then we have a gut health and immunity bundle that can help. It's got probiotics, prebiotics, digestive enzymes. It's got a mushroom supplement. It's got glutamine, which is an amino acid that is actually what the lining of your gut is made of. There's this thing called leaky gut syndrome where your gut kind of becomes porous, and the toxins in your gut start to leak into your body and causes all kinds of issues. So glutamine can help to shore up any sort of leaky gut issues. And then also an immunity drink, which is absolutely delicious. And in this world we're in today, everybody needs a little bit of help with immunity. So yeah. So,
Absolutely.
and then if somebody's, really struggling with work and being able to think straight, solve problems, suffering from brain fog or recall issues, memory issues, we have a brain health and neuroinflammation bundle. So yeah, those are great options, but I would recommend people start with the stress and anxiety bundle because, relational trauma causes complex post-traumatic stress disorder, like I said before. So it's a stress disorder, which means you have chronically elevated stress hormone, cortisol, and that causes inflammation. And so what the stress and anxiety bundle mainly does, it does a lot, but it mainly targets reducing your stress hormone, cortisol, and then reducing inflammation in your body and in your brain. And both of those things are going to make you feel significantly better. And, I know, Jared, you've had experiences, with supplements that do that as well. And it's changed my life. So I take those things religiously. I also do take the probiotics, and I mix my immunity drink with my glutamine and with super greens and creatine.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so but the stress and anxiety bundle, that is actually where I started, and I definitely recommend that's where others start. And something that's actually really cool to just throw in there is we are actually starting to sell the stress and anxiety bundle in doctors' offices.
Now, is the stress and anxiety bundle, is it like one pill or is it a group of things?
It's 5 bottles, so it's
Okay.
essentially 5 supplements. And so it's like 5 30-day supplies. Some of them you'll take.
Is it one
Actually,
ingredient per
might,
bottle or?
it depends. So there is. So we have the magnesium, like
Right.
like you take, right, and then we have the ashwagandha. So magnesium is its own bottle. Ashwagandha is its own bottle. Um, Omega-3 fish oil is its own bottle. But then we have an anti-inflammatory complex, which it has a clinical dose of um, turmeric 95%, which is the 95% curcuminoids, which is just as good of an anti-inflammatory as Tylenol or ibuprofen or whatever. I mean, I love this stuff. Plus, it's got glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM. It's got joint health ingredients as well, and a bunch of other ingredients.
And it
And then,
doesn't have acetaminophen, which is good
but
too.
it doesn't have acetaminophen or ibuprofen in it. Yeah.
Good,
So,
good.
or yeah.
There's
And
more deaths, I think, each year from acetaminophen than there is from almost any supplement combined. Acetaminophen
wow.
and acetaminophen poisoning. But you would never know it, though. You would never know
Oh, yeah.
that from
They're
how
not
the
gonna
main.
let you. They're not
No,
gonna put that on the news.
absolutely not. But it's true, though. It's important to know. Yeah, acetaminophen can be bad. So it's
Yeah.
because, and I mentioned that part of it because there are a school of people out there that tries to demonize supplements sometimes, and they'll say, "Oh no, that they're not studied properly." And it's like, well, you got to remember they don't have an incentive to study them. Who's paying for the studies to study anything?
Oh yeah.
Most likely big pharma. So big pharma pays for studies that they want to see
Right.
get done, whether that's with prescription meds or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, the only people who would make studies on supplements might be independent researchers, perhaps, but it would have to be somebody that had the money and the time to put forth to do that study. So they just
Yeah.
don't happen as often. Now they do happen, but they're
Yeah,
rare.
they are. I mean, they are studied. Our
Yeah,
supplements are studied. So,
good.
that is, that is what has differentiated me from the competition for the past 7 years, is actually diving into the clinical
Good.
research.
That's important.
I'm not going to sell something that I can't, literally print out a clinical study and say, here's, at least this clinical study says that this product will do this for you if you take it. So might as well try it. And if it doesn't work, I've got a 60-day money back guarantee.
Good. I mean, those are great things. And I think you showing them that, like, that gives you some authenticity and it gives you some, what's another word I'm looking for? I can't remember the word, but it makes you more legit. That's the word. Like, it shows that you're legit. Yep. Here's some studies. Here's some science to prove the claims that these things are doing.
Right.
And either way, like ashwagandha, I take ashwagandha every day. Magnesium, I take magnesium every day. Omega-3, I take that every day. And that's in fish oil. And like the one I take is from Nature's Made. So it's like 1,000 milligrams. It's like 1,400 milligrams fish oil, 1,000 omega-3s, because
Right.
both of those are important, right? Omegas, I think, are more important actually than the fish oil.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I would take 2,000 milligrams of that a day too.
Okay.
Just from the clinical studies that we've looked at.
Is there a max too? Because I take 3 of those a day. I take like once in
Oh
the
yeah, you
morning.
should be good then. I don't know if there'd be a max. I think you would probably start to experience some gastrointestinal issues, and that's when you know you'd hit your
Okay.
max.
I don't take too much of any one thing. I do take a couple things twice a day, and I do take a couple things 3 times a day, but nothing's too severe where it's like I'm taking a bottle of something a day, or some of the things that people may say
Right.
to try to smear a supplement like, oh, this person had this happen, or it could potentially have this happen. It's like, well, you really got to take a lot of
Yeah.
something that's natural like that to get to that level of side effect.
Yeah, I mean there is such thing as like zinc poisoning or
Yeah,
magnesium poisoning or even vitamin D3 poisoning.
sure.
So I actually sell vitamin D3 gummies that are 10,000 IUs a day, and that is the safe upper limit. According to the science, the safe upper limit's 10,000 IUs a day. So sometimes you'll go to a doctor and they'll be like, they'll give you 60,000 IUs or something, but they'll say don't take any of this for a week. You get that big dose, but then
Right.
it's going to last you a week or whatever.
Sure.
So we just stay consistent with 10,000 a day. And it's amazing that something as simple as magnesium or fish oil or vitamin D can really help you feel better.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. I mean, those are 3 right there that I would say most people should start on those 3. Right? You
yeah,
take magnesium, you take omega-3s, and then maybe take zinc. I think those things,
yeah.
boom,
And
take
vitamin
those
D.
to start, and D3 as 4. So D3, one of the better benefits of it for me was I don't get sunburn anymore. I
Huh,
take 6,000 IUs of D3 a day, and I
yeah,
just stopped getting sunburn. Like, the worst I've ever gotten was like a little bit of pink, but I used to get bad sunburn. But something
interesting.
about it, I don't get sunburn anymore because D3 is technically, I think, a hormone. So, and it
Right.
helps with depression, it helps with anxiety, it helps men with testosterone too. That's another thing to look out for. So, and zinc does as well, and magnesium for that matter, and even ashwagandha. I think ashwagandha helps regulate hormones too. But
Yeah,
all of this stuff helps your body function better, and it helps you be like a better version of yourself. And people would look at me now compared to how I was like 20 years ago in high school. And it's a completely different consciousness, I would say, where
right.
you change your consciousness, you can change your reality. But
Yeah,
a lot of your life is determined by how you seeing the world. What's the lens you're seeing the world through? And when someone has anxiety, someone has depression, someone has severe trauma, CPTSD, that is tinting how you see everything. And some of that has to do with stress, cortisol too. But you don't want to be seeing life through that tint. But when you correct the tint and you get a better prescription, so to speak, forgive the analogy there, but your whole life can change. And I don't want to act like it's some magic bullet because it's not a magic bullet, but it absolutely helps. And I think in combination, supplements in combination with a healthy diet, good sleep. I can't emphasize sleep enough.
yeah,
7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, mandatory for me, or I'm a cranky bastard. And exercise. So supplements are very important, but that sleep, diet, exercise stuff is very important too. And community and solid relationships. All of this stuff, it comes together. And
yeah.
supplements are a big piece, mind you, but it's a piece of the bigger pie of the total that they all got to be working in tandem to me.
Yeah. And everything that you just mentioned I mean, they're all scientifically proven to help prevent depression.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
all about that, like they
You read
say.
that same article that I read today.
Well, I think Albert Einstein said life is like a bicycle. In order to keep your balance, you got to keep moving. Yeah. And
Keep
depression
pedaling.
can't hit a moving target. All of those things, I think there's some truth in it. And overall, my philosophy is whatever helps people is what I am all for. Even if it's prescription meds, fine. I don't care. If it helps you, I'm all for it. But I'm ultimately hoping to get people into that place, however they get there. Right. And I think looking at things in your past in the best way possible that helps you let go of resentment, I'm big into that. And I
Yeah.
think supplements can help with that too. I think supplements can help all of those things because it's like the name says, a supplement. What is a supplement? It's something that, in addition to other things, can help.
Yeah.
And it does absolutely help. So I'm a big advocate of supplements, and I'm a big advocate of what you're doing over there at Promethean Wellness. I think it's a piece of the puzzle that doesn't get talked about as much, but it's super important.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's and just, what you were saying, I mean, sometimes the brain fog um and the stress and anxiety is like you know, it's like crippling for your brain. You just can't hardly even think or function or remember words, so you can speak with someone. And just something like ashwagandha, reducing that stress, can start to open up your ability to think. Or omega-3 fish oil actually lubricates your neurons so they start firing again.
That's a good
So
way to remember it too. I like that. I never thought
yeah,
of it that
it's
way.
oil. It actually lubricates your neurons. It's I what my chief scientific officer used to say is those neural pathways are actually made of omega-3.
Okay. I didn't know that part of it. Like, I take this stuff and I still don't know all the benefits.
Oh,
I just feel,
no, me either.
yeah, I
Yeah,
feel it. And then I learn more about it as time goes on. I'm like, oh, yeah, I take that. And they talk about all these benefits that it can do. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And I didn't know glutamine did that for your digestive tract too. I
yeah,
didn't know that part either. But, I take glutamine every day.
yeah,
Now, and this is what I tell people about supplements too. And let me know if you agree. I say people should take one thing at a time. You start taking one thing at a time so that you know what's doing what. And then you stop taking one thing at a time if you need to. Because if you start taking a bunch of things at once, you're not quite sure what supplement is doing what. You don't know how your body is going to react to any one
right.
thing. And everyone's body is a little bit different. So I always say, take one at a time, see how your body reacts to it, and then add one at a time and like do that process for it. And I think that's important.
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing with people with food sensitivities.
Yeah.
Like sometimes if you're um I, that is a great technique. That is kind of like the scientific method, essentially. I mean, it's not necessarily my philosophy. I'm more like, I'm gonna take this bundle, and if it causes some sort of digestive discomfort or something like that, then I'm gonna start taking things away, see if I can kind
Yeah, that
of
makes
figure
sense.
out what's going on there. Yeah, but yeah, that is the scientific way to do it for sure. And it's, doctors will have you do that with food sensitivities or something like that if you're trying to figure out what type of foods are causing digestive discomfort or gastrointestinal issues or whatever.
Another big one, another symptom of trauma could be the ADD. What supplements in particular would suggest for ADD?
So I am not as versed in ADD, but I my understanding is that it is a dopamine deficiency. So I don't have off the top of my head what supplements would help to increase your dopamine, but you can definitely, Google that and research it, because I have seen it marketed, but I haven't really delved into what the ingredients are in those supplements that are supposed to promote dopamine. But
Right.
my understanding is that ADHD is actually a dopamine deficiency. Now, one reason why I don't really have a supplement for that is because dopamine is very behavioral. It's your reward hormone, and so there are a lot of different things that you can do behaviorally and from a habit standpoint to actually regulate your dopamine. Actually, on my Healing Out Loud Instagram page or on my Facebook page, in my bio, I have a link to 17 ways to reduce stress and anxiety. And a lot of those 17 ways in that document are actually dopamine producing activities.
I think I saw you posted that too. There was one where there's 2 columns, and one was like good dopamine and the other one was bad dopamine. Did you post something like that?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, and like on the bad side was like a porn was on it, endless scrolling on your
Yeah,
phone. I think the
that's
phone's a big one. The phone's a big one.
oh,
Seeing
for
the
sure.
light, that can
Yeah.
really deplete things. And I would say for ADD, I think fish oil would help that. I think magnesium would help that. I think ashwagandha would help that. In
Yeah.
addition, I think things like tyrosine could help that because they say that's a precursor to dopamine. Choline too, and choline is good for word recall, and even NAC. I'm not sure if you're familiar with NAC, but I think NAC could probably help with
Yeah.
ADD.
My supplement manufacturer is actually coming out with a really high quality NAC.
That's
So
big.
I need to look into that a little more. But yeah, that's a
Do
great
it.
question, and I'm glad that you helped answer that too. My girlfriend is actually over here saying yep, 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 because I think she just looked it up while you were giving giving those answers.
Yeah. See, I'm like you. I've been obsessed with supplements for a while, so
Yeah,
I know a lot about them. I should probably do something more with it as well. But NAC, that's something that they were trying to come after NAC for a minute, and I was on the spearhead of trying to stop that from happening. And luckily, I did, or I helped. I wasn't me, but I helped like them keep it around. And a lot of times it depends on the manufacturer because I have noticed they've changed the quality where I used to get it from a place, a vitamin shop, and then their version turned to trash. So
Huh.
I stopped taking it. But there's still other versions that I take are still good, but there are certain supplements that they're not all created equally. So and I've learned that with fish oil,
Oh yeah,
with magnesium, with NAC, with 5-HTP. It depends on the brand because you
right.
might think that, oh, this supplement doesn't do much for me, but you might have just gotten a bad brand and that
Or
and a bad quality.
so something could be organic because
Yeah.
it's got organic ingredients in it, but that doesn't mean that it has been third party tested for heavy metals. I
Yeah.
mean, so that's why we thought it was really important to have the third party testing and get the NSF certification. So you may pay a few dollars more per bottle, but you also get the peace of mind that you're getting that quality too.
You get what you pay for, is what I say to people. And what else are you going to invest in if not your body?
Yeah,
I
you're
would say.
for sure.
So
Your
like
health is your wealth.
I mean, yeah, they say it's corny, but that's absolutely true, right? And all those things we've been talking about, that's what helps you be happier and healthier. So, working out plus the supplements plus sleep diet, all
Yeah,
of that really impacts the quality of your life. And that's I'm all about enhancing the quality of my life.
yeah, absolutely, man.
So, is there anything else you wanted to touch on here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's been great talking to you. Like I said, I've been asked to do this before, and just I'm not even sure why I really haven't, but I really like your content and what you've been putting out there on social media. So I've been following you for a while, and it's good to hear that you're kind of into the supplement thing too, because we both believe that it can really kind of fill in the gaps between people trying to do their own self work and doing therapy. But sometimes chemically your body needs some help. And I'm definitely, I'm not totally anti prescription or pharma, because obviously it has its place. But you know I mean, I'm not automatic prescription drugs either, because I've been there before and I've listened to those doctors, and it made me sicker, and it made me worse. And then when I started learning about nutritional supplements and taking them myself, it really changed my life. And I used it to change my life again whenever I went through my narcissistic abuse trauma recovery. And so, so I decided to offer the same things to the world that I used to help myself.
That's the name of the game, man. The name of the game is turning those, what do they say? Turning the wounds into wisdom. That's the real flex. So I'm all on board with that. Where else can people find you? So you're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok?
Instagram. So TikTok is Healing Out Loud. Instagram is Healing Out Loud, but there's actually a period and an underscore in there. I can't really.
I have it in the description box too, in case people need to see
That's helpful. And then my name's Jason Tapp on Facebook. They wouldn't let me change my name to Healing Out Loud. So
yeah, they're pretty strict with the names.
I wanted to get that on my driver's license, but they
underscore out.loud on Instagram.
Healing underscore out.loud on Instagram. I have a wonderful assistant over there that helps me.
She's rocking and rolling over there. Yeah, and the name of your
for sure.
And the name of your supplement company is Promethean Wellness. Is that PrometheanWellness.com? Just Google that and it'll come right up.
Yeah, it's PrometheanWellness.com. And then I also sell apple cider vinegar supplements that are on ACVProHealth.com. So I actually have a new apple cider vinegar ashwagandha vitamin D gummy coming out. I probably shouldn't even say that, but nobody, but it's close enough to market. I think I can still beat everybody to market if they try to steal that idea, but nobody else has done this yet. And it's a sugar-free, and it's got large clinical doses of all three in them. So I'm super excited about that. We're gonna launch those in doctors' offices as well, because I mean, it's apple cider vinegar for blood sugar, ashwagandha for cortisol, vitamin D for practically everything in the body. And I take those things and I go to sleep. Like the ashwagandha, it's an extract and it's strong. So I take it.
It helps. Yeah. Extract stronger too than just the regular herb.
Yep.
We didn't talk about apple cider vinegar on air, or apple cider vinegar. We talked about that before we went live, but what are the benefits of the apple cider?
Yeah, so I actually make most of my living selling apple cider vinegar supplements, and the company is called ACV Pro Health. It used to be under the Promethean Wellness umbrella until I switched Promethean Wellness to help people with trauma recovery. So that's now ACV Pro Health, and apple cider vinegar has acetic acid in it, which helps to lower blood sugar.
Okay.
So kind of the way it works is blood sugar. When your blood sugar goes up, then that actually raises your cortisol, or your stress hormone. And actually, most people don't know this, but sugar actually stresses your body out. It's kind of amazing, but it also raises your insulin levels, right? So blood sugar goes up, your body's flooded with insulin to bring your blood sugar back down. And then, if you're kind of on a high sugar diet, then you just go on this roller coaster of blood sugar up, down, insulin up, down, and then your body becomes resistant to insulin over time. So that's called insulin resistance, and that's basically pre-diabetes. And then when insulin no longer properly operates in your body, then you have type 2 diabetes of it.
Wow.
So if you can head that off at the pass with balancing your blood sugar is the key. And so taking apple cider vinegar supplements every day helps you to just kind of cruise along and balance your blood sugar. And then once your body doesn't go through the stress of, think about it, literally riding a roller coaster and the stress that puts you through. It's, when your body's no longer put through that stress and your cortisol goes down, then it's actually a really great weight loss supplement because your body is balanced, and then it allows your body to release the fat stores.
Yeah, because I mean, sugar is a drug, basically, and it sends people up and down. And the tricky part is they've put sugar in pretty much everything. There's all sorts of added sugars everywhere. So it all contributes to that. And I always tell people, unless someone's purposefully off of sugar, they're on sugar. They just don't know it. because it's just in that much stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the high fructose corn syrup, it's just jacked up sugar basically.
Yeah, well, they had to get those farm subsidies and do something with that corn, and this is the result.
Yeah, sugar, corn sugar.
Yeah, high fruct, as I'd like to call it. But anyway, Jason, it's been great having you on. It's been a privilege to be the first person to hear your story and to share it on this platform. That's been pretty awesome. I'm glad you felt comfortable to do that.
Thanks.
And thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, Jared, I appreciate it.
All right, my man. You have a good night.
You too, buddy.
So